Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Giano. Today I'm going to be talking about benchmark. On this slide, I'm going to be talking about how we can plan, organize, and perform tests on Metasploitable 2 using Kali Linux, using any of the software, which means Nmap, Nexus, or Nikto. For the planning, this will determine the scope and the objectives of the penetration testing to ensure that it aligns with the goals of the organization and adhere to ethical and legal consideration. Organizing. Ensure that both systems are up and running and that Kali can connect to Metasploitable 2, which means you check the IP address using ipconfig to make sure you have the IP address before going in for your scan. Performing the test. We use the following software that I mentioned: Nikto, Nexus, OWASP, and Nmap. Planning, organization, and performing penetration tests requires a systematic approach that involves port scanning, vulnerability scanning, and exploiting vulnerabilities. It is crucial to provide solutions for the identified vulnerabilities and to use ethical hacking techniques to assess targeted machine without causing harm. Summary and procedures of pen testing and handling procedures failures. Penetration testing is valuable in identifying vulnerabilities in an organization's systems, networks, and applications. Handling procedural failures requires identifying the root cause and taking corrective action to prevent recurrences. The best practices for effective penetration tests include defining clear objectives, regular testing, using an experienced team, and documenting each process. On this slide, I use the Nmap scan to scan the Metasploitable 2. And doing the scan, the result that came out shows that I have like up to 20 ports that are open, and I have the FTP, SSH, Telnet, SMTP, domain, HTTP. So these are all ports that are open that can be targeted by attackers, that we can target it while we scan to see if we can get into the victim's computer. Using Nikto to scan the Metasploitable 2. Here are the results on the screenshots, and I also have the risk assessment, the current trends, cybersecurity about it, and the result. The server is running an outdated version of Apache, which may contain known vulnerabilities that attackers can exploit. So which means the system got to be updated, but it's not. So that's why we can exploit this system using Nikto. To mitigate vulnerabilities in Nikto scan of IP address 192.168.9.5, a risk assessment and gap analysis must be performed, followed by proposed countermeasures. Expected results should be clearly described, and a mitigation strategy should be established. This strategy should be explained in details and demonstrate how it reduces risk and adding the system. On this slide, I did OWASP ZAP scan on the Metasploitable 2 address, which it automatically identifies web application security vulnerabilities during development and testing. So we're trying to check for the vulnerabilities in the Metasploitable address, so that's why we use OWASP scan to scan all ports, all areas, to see if we can get in through an SQL injector. On this slide, I did the Nexus scan using the IP address from the Metasploitable 2. Here are the risk assessment and gap analysis, and also the countermeasures, how we, to mitigate vulnerabilities, which is to upgrade to the latest version of the Apache, properly configure headers, disable directories indexes, implementing a web application firewall like WAF, regular update and patch software. Expected results: these are to improve security posture, reduce risk of data breaches and cyber attacks, increase customer confidence and trust. Here are examples of reducing risk and adding our system: mitigate vulnerabilities to reduce the likelihood of successful attack, implement security controls to prevent unauthorized access to the system, regularly review, update security policies and procedures to ensure ongoing protection. On this slide, I'm going to be talking about the Nexus rerun. The Nexus rerun is a step whereby I already ran the Metasploitable IP address, and I already have my result from the scan. I have all the couple of results, and I went back to the Metasploitable 2 and do some upgrades and updates. For instance, I did upgrade to upgrade the system, update the system, also change the password. I try to remove some files, that are inactive files. Then I go back to Nexus and get a rerun. The reason to implement these changes is because we are to address the critical and high vulnerabilities identified in the scans, which could pose a significant risk to the system. Also, to improve the overall security posture of the system by addressing medium and low vulnerabilities as well, to comply with industry or regulatory standards for security, to reduce the risk of a breach or data loss, to improve system performance or reliability. Also, expected results are different from the actual ones. Vulnerabilities identified, the number and the severity of the vulnerabilities discovered may exceed the expected based on priority scan and the industry benchmark, which means it changes because I already went on Metasploit and made some changes and I'm back and I run the scan again. Effectiveness of the change. The changes made to the address vulnerabilities may not be as effective as expected, and further changes may be necessary to fulfill address and vulnerabilities. Impact on system performance and availability. These changes were made to address vulnerabilities which may have a greater impact on the system performance and availability than anticipated, potentially causing an unexpected issue. Lastly, the lesson learned in this overall classwork about and admin, the importance of regular vulnerability scanning and assessment to identify potential security risk, and the need for a comprehensive security plan, which means how to mitigate plan, how to address it when there is vulnerability, how to make sure that your system lacks vulnerabilities. For instance, now, the importance of prioritizing vulnerabilities are based on their severity and potential impact on the organization. Thank you. Lastly, here is the reference. The reference is what is a penetration test and why do I need it, the website and everything. Thank you.